I carried a lie in my hands for 15 years, and my son was alive all this time.
My name is Marcus Hayes. I'm 43 years old, and I run my own architecture firm in a mid-sized city. My life is built around blueprints, concrete, and steel, things that can be measured and calculated. But once, years ago, my world shifted because of something as fragile as a laugh. I was 28 when I met Sophie Montgomery. She worked as a hospital administrator, and we crossed paths at a charity gala. The speeches droned on in the background, a blur of polished words, but then I heard it. Her laugh. It was bright, unguarded, alive. I turned my head and found her across the room, and from that moment, I couldn't look away. Everything moved quickly after that. Within a year, we were married. Within 2, we were expecting our first child. The pregnancy was brutal on Sophie. Morning sickness kept her bedridden for weeks at a time, and a gray fog of depression settled over her. I rearranged my entire work schedule, canceled meetings, postponed projects, pushed clients off, so I could be there. I drove her to every appointment, sat beside her in waiting rooms where the smell of antiseptic clung to the air. On weekends, I painted the nursery myself in a soft blue, each brushstroke carrying a private prayer. I wanted the room ready, wanted proof that the world was prepared to welcome him. When the labor came at 36 weeks, it hit like a storm. 14 hours. I stayed at her side the entire time, gripping her hand until my own went numb. The sterile light above us never dimmed. The monitors beeped in uneven rhythms, and her face was slick with sweat and pain. Then a doctor touched my shoulder and guided me into the hallway. His mouth moved, but all I caught were the words, "I'm so sorry, Mr. Hayes. Your son didn't survive." The world broke along a fault line in that instant. After that, everything blurred. Sophie was sedated. When I saw her again, she lay on her side, facing the wall, unreachable. Papers appeared in front of me. Consent forms, legal documents, acknowledgments. I signed them all with a hand that didn't feel like mine. No one showed us a body. They said that was standard for stillbirths. Sophie made a few hushed calls using her hospital connections and somehow arranged a private cremation. An urn the size of my palm appeared days later, resting on our mantel. I believed for years that it held my son's ashes. Our marriage didn't end that night, not officially, but it withered piece by piece. Sophie retreated into silence and long hours at the hospital. I buried myself in projects and deadlines. We stopped talking about children. We stopped talking at all. 5 years later, we were sharing an address, but not a life. At the 10-year mark, she suggested space, so I packed my things and moved into a downtown loft, pouring every unspoken grief into glass towers and steel beams. The awards followed, but none of them filled the hollow space I carried. 15 years after I signed those papers in the hospital, I was standing in my office, bent over plans for a new pediatric wing, when my assistant burst in. Maria looked apologetic, a thin figure hovering behind her. He was a boy. No, not a boy. A teenager, tall and awkward, his dark hair falling over one eye. Something in his jawline stopped me cold. "I'm sorry, Mr. Hayes," Maria stammered. "He insisted—" The kid stepped forward, hands buried in his pockets, shoulders hunched as if bracing for impact. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Dad." I stood so quickly my blueprints scattered across the floor. "Who are you?" "My name is Tyler Hayes. I think I'm your son." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket and handed it to me. A birth certificate. My name listed as father, Sophie's as mother. The date exactly matched the day my world had supposedly ended. "My adoptive mom passed away last month," Tyler said. His fingers twisted the document until the crease bent deep into the page. "Cancer. Before she died, she told me the truth. About the cash adoption. That my birth mother sold me for $57,000. That my father... that you never knew I existed." My vision narrowed until the room felt like a tunnel. I clutched the edge of my desk to keep myself upright, but my knees still threatened to give. "That's impossible." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't. Memory rushed back in fragments. Sophie's sudden business trips, the secretive phone calls she never explained, her absolute refusal to speak of that night in the hospital. Tyler's voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come." "No." My voice sounded foreign to me, low and cold, pulled from some place beneath the grief I had carried for 15 years. I looked at him, the set of his shoulders, the nervous tremor in his hands, the undeniable echo of my own features. "You're exactly where you belong." A DNA test confirmed it within days. Tyler was mine. He had my height, Sophie's eyes, and this quiet intensity that was all his own. I rented a 2-bedroom place immediately. Tyler moved in with just a backpack and duffel bag. His adoptive mother, Rachel Carson, had been a nurse at the same hospital where Sophie worked. The connection was obvious now. "Were you happy with her?" I asked one night over Chinese takeout. "Mostly," Tyler said quietly. "Mom, Rachel, she tried her best. Never married, it was just us. She didn't tell me I was adopted until she got sick. While I got to know my son, I hired this private investigator named Jack Sullivan. Used to be a cop before they kicked him out for crossing lines. Now he worked in the gray areas where regular PIs wouldn't go. Find everything," I told him. "Every detail about the adoption. Who knew? Where the money went, bank records, phone logs, all of it." Tyler was brilliant with math and engineering, but struggled with reading. Rachel had homeschooled him for years before getting sick, so he was behind academically, but ahead in other ways. I hired tutors and enrolled him in a private school for gifted kids with learning gaps. 3 weeks later, Jack called. "You need to see this. Bring cash." His office was above a pawn shop in the sketchy part of town. He spread documents across a beat-up desk, bank statements, hospital records, recorded conversations. "Your wife didn't act alone," Jack said, lighting up despite the no smoking sign. "She had help from Dr. Kenneth Warren, who ran obstetrics back then. They faked the stillbirth records. Warren declared your son dead without examining him. He retired 2 years later with an unexplained fortune." I looked at the bank statement. $57,000 deposited into Sophie's account 3 days after Tyler's birth, then dispersed to offshore accounts. "There's more," Jack continued. "Sophie and Warren were having an affair for almost a year before your son was born. Still are, from what I can tell. They live together now in that gated community on the north side." Everything inside me went ice cold. "One more thing." Jack slid over another document. "Your son's adoption wasn't legal. No court records, no social workers. Your wife and Warren essentially sold your child on the black market. That's child trafficking, federal offense." "Why would she do this?" I asked. "My guess? The affair was getting serious. A baby would complicate things. This way she solved the problem, made money, and kept you oblivious." "What about Rachel Carson?" "She couldn't have kids, had applied for adoption multiple times but got rejected for financial instability. Buying a baby was her only option. That $57,000 was her entire life savings. From what I found, she was a good mother, though." I gathered the documents. "Send me everything. Keep digging. I want leverage." As I left, Jack called after me. "Hayes, whatever you're planning, remember, your son needs a father, not a convict." I turned, and my expression made him step back. "When I'm done, my son will have everything he deserves, and so will they." I moved methodically, like planning a complex building. First, I secured Tyler legally. With Jack's evidence of the illegal adoption, I filed for emergency custody. The judge was horrified and granted it immediately, sealing the records to protect Tyler. Next, I visited an old client, District Attorney Robert Chen. I designed his vacation home at cost after his previous house burned down. Time to call in that favor. "I need time," I explained, sliding the evidence across his desk. "Don't move on this yet." Chen flipped through it, expression darkening. "This is serious, Marcus. Child trafficking, medical fraud, conspiracy. I can't just sit on this. 30 days. Give me 30 days before you take action. I need to protect my son from the media circus." "What will you be doing in those 30 days?" My smile didn't reach my eyes. "Getting my affairs in order." What I didn't tell Chen was that I'd already started. I'd liquidated investments, moved assets, prepared contingencies. As an architect, I knew the most elegant solutions came from understanding structural weaknesses. Sophie and Warren's lives were built on lies. I would dismantle them, brick by brick. Then I got a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk about Tyler, please." "Sophie," I showed Tyler. "She knows you found me." His face hardened. "Are you going to meet her?" "Yes, but not yet. First, we prepare." I spent the next week learning everything about Tyler. His favorite foods, his nightmares, his dreams. He wanted to design video games, combining his math skills with creative storytelling. He had anxiety and panic attacks in crowds. I noted every detail, building a blueprint of the son I should have known from birth. Meanwhile, Jack kept digging. Dr. Warren owned a biotech company specializing in fertility treatments, initially funded with money from selling Tyler. That $57,000 had been reinvested many times over. Warren and Sophie were now worth millions. "They're planning to move," Jack reported. "Warren's company is opening a clinic in Switzerland, non-extradition country, conveniently." I added this to my mental calculations. The trap was almost ready. 17 days after Tyler appeared, I finally replied to Sophie's message. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., the Riverside restaurant. The Riverside was where we'd had our first date, a deliberate choice to unbalance her. I arrived early. When Sophie walked in, I barely recognized her. Gone was the woman I married. This person was sleeker, harder, expensively maintained. "Marcus," she said, sitting down, "thank you for meeting me. Save it. I know everything, Sophie. The fake stillbirth, Warren, the money." She paled, but recovered quickly. "It's more complicated than you think. Enlighten me." "I was trapped, Marcus. You were so focused on your career, building your firm. I was young and scared. Kenneth offered me a way out by selling our child. It wasn't like that. Rachel was a good woman. She gave Tyler a loving home. While telling him I didn't want him, I kept my voice even, remembering the recording device in my jacket pocket. "What do you want, Sophie? Why contact me now?" Her composure cracked. "Kenneth and I are leaving the country next month. Fresh start. I wanted to make things right with Tyler before we go. Maybe set up a trust fund, college expenses." "How generous. And what about me? What do I deserve after 15 years of believing my son was dead?" Sophie's eyes darted around. "We could come to an arrangement. Kenneth's company is doing very well. We could compensate you for your inconvenience." I stood, dropping cash on the table. "You know your problem, Sophie. You've always thought everything has a price, even our son." As I walked away, she called out, "Don't do anything stupid, Marcus. We have influence, connections." I turned, smiling genuinely for the first time. "So do I." Using the recording, I confirmed what Jack had discovered. Warren and Sophie were liquidating U.S. assets, preparing to flee. Their biotech company, Genesis Life, was in final acquisition stages with a Swiss pharmaceutical giant. Once that closed, they'd be untouchable. Jack found more victims. 2 other families had experienced stillbirths under Warren's care, only to discover years later their children had been sold to wealthy couples who couldn't adopt legally. One mother, Jennifer Cole, broke down when Jack approached her. "We suspected something, but everyone said we were crazy with grief. My husband ended himself 6 months later. Her daughter had been sold to a Texas oil executive for $120,000. "This is bigger than we thought," Jack warned me. Warren wasn't just helping Sophie. He was running a black market baby operation. I brought the families together in my office after hours. "We can go to the authorities now, but Warren's lawyers will drag this out for years. Or we can set a trap and get justice plus compensation." Jennifer Cole's expression hardened. "What do you need?" While building this alliance, Sophie grew desperate. She tried visiting Tyler's school, but was blocked by security I'd hired. She then emailed Tyler directly, claiming I wasn't telling him everything. Tyler showed me immediately. "She says you're not being honest, that she had reasons. Do you want to hear her side?" I asked. Tyler considered. "Eventually, but not yet. When you're ready, I'll support whatever you decide. But these people are dangerous." The next day, Warren himself called, our first direct contact. "You're making a serious mistake, Hayes." His voice was smooth and cultured. "We can resolve this amicably." "By amicably, you mean another payoff?" I kept my tone conversational while recording. "I prefer to think of it as compensation for emotional distress. $5 million, tax-free. All you do is sign an NDA and drop this misguided crusade." "Interesting offer, but I'm afraid the price has gone up. You see, I know about the Coles and probably others I haven't found yet." A pause. $10 million. Final offer. "You misunderstand. I'm not negotiating. I'm informing you that your time is running out." Warren's civilized veneer cracked. "You think you can threaten me? I built an empire while you were drawing pretty pictures. And I have evidence you can't survive. 13 days, doctor. That's how long until everything collapses." 3 days later, my office building caught fire. The fire department contained it quickly, but my office sustained heavy smoke and water damage. The investigator was blunt. "Definitely arson. Professional job." Fortunately, I'd anticipated this. All files were backed up in multiple secure locations under shell companies. Then I received a text. "Fire was a warning. Next time, it won't be an empty office. Drop it or Tyler loses another parent." Instead of responding, I forwarded it to Chen, who called immediately. "This changes things. Witness intimidation, attempted homicide. I can get warrants now." "Not yet," I insisted. "They're desperate. Let's see how far they'll go. This isn't a game, Marcus. Trust me, the trap is almost ready." That evening, I sat Tyler down. Your birth mother and Dr. Warren are dangerous. They've threatened us both. Tyler's expression didn't change. I know. I figured it out when that security guy started following me. I'm planning something that will ensure they face justice and never hurt anyone again. Will it hurt them? It will destroy everything they've built. Tyler nodded slowly. Good. 7 days before Chen's deadline, things accelerated. An FDA investigation into Warren's company uncovered serious irregularities with their fertility treatment data, putting the Swiss acquisition in jeopardy. The company's stock started falling as rumors circulated. Meanwhile, Jack found a nurse who'd worked under Warren during the baby selling period. Valentina Cruz had kept silent for years, but now terminally ill with cancer, she had nothing to lose. Her sworn deposition detailed how Warren identified vulnerable parents, engineered complications during delivery, then made the babies disappear. He called it redistribution, Valentina explained in her tiny apartment. Said these babies would have better lives with parents who could provide properly. Some staff thought it was almost charitable. And Sophie? I asked. She handled the administrative side, made records disappear, created fake death certificates, managed money. Cold as ice, that one. I arranged for Valentina's testimony to be recorded and notarized. I also set up a trust for her granddaughter's education. With evidence mounting, I scheduled a press conference for the day before Chen would file charges. The affected families would tell their stories with documentation. I'd already secured commitments from major networks. 4 days before the press conference, Sophie reached out again, this time through my sister Rachel, who'd stayed friendly with her after our split. She's falling apart, Marcus, Rachel reported after meeting Sophie. Says Warren is drinking heavily, becoming paranoid. She wants to make a deal. Says she'll tell you everything if you'll leave her out of it. Tell her I'll meet tomorrow, same place. At the meeting, Sophie looked haggard despite expensive clothes and makeup. Thank you for coming. You said you have information. I'm listening. Sophie glanced around nervously. Kenneth doesn't know I'm here. It wouldn't be good if he found out. She pushed a flash drive across the table. Everything's here. Names of all the babies, the buyers, the amounts, bank accounts in the Caymans, Singapore, evidence of how we falsified the clinical trial data. Why now, Sophie? After 15 years? She looked away. Because I saw Tyler at his school. He looks just like you. Her voice cracked. I told myself it was the right thing, that he'd have a better life with Rachel, that we weren't ready. But seeing him now. Save the performance, what do you want? Immunity and 10% of whatever settlement you get from Kenneth. I need enough to disappear and start over. You think money will fix this? You sold our son, Sophie. You let me believe he was dead for 15 years. I know, she whispered, and I'll pay for that every day. But Kenneth is the real monster. He's done this dozens of times. He has to be stopped. I'll have my attorney review this. If it's valuable, we'll discuss terms. As I left, Sophie called out, Marcus, there's something else. Kenneth has someone inside the DA's office. He knows charges are coming. Be careful. I relayed this to Chen, who immediately began an internal investigation. Jack verified Sophie's flash drive contents. It's gold, account numbers, dates, names, everything we need. How implicated is Sophie? Jack hesitated. She's trying to distance herself, but these records show her as an active participant. She signed off on everything, received percentages. Good. Forward everything to Chen. That night, Tyler appeared in my study doorway. Can I talk to you? Always. He fidgeted. I got another email from her. My birth mother. Says she's sorry. That she's trying to make things right. That she always loved me in her way. Do you believe her? Tyler looked up, eyes suddenly older than his 15 years. No. If she loved me, she wouldn't have sold me. What do you want to do? I want to be at the press conference. I want to stand with you. I want them to see exactly who they tried to throw away. Pride and concern warred in my chest. It will be intense. Cameras, reporters, questions. I can handle it. I need to do this. For Rachel and for myself. I studied him. Okay, we'll do it together. 2 days before the press conference, disaster struck. Jack called at 3 a.m. Valentina Cruz is dead. Police are calling it a break-in gone wrong, but it's too convenient. Her deposition? Safe. Multiple copies. But there's more. The other families received threats, and Warren's disappeared, Sophie too. They won't get far. The net is closing. The morning of the press conference, Chen called. We found Warren. Airport security grabbed him trying to board a private flight to Venezuela with surgical alteration tools and a fake passport. And Sophie? No sign yet, but we froze all known accounts. The press conference room was packed. TV cameras lined the back wall. I took the podium with Tyler beside me in his first suit, navy blue, perfectly tailored. 15 years ago, I began. My wife Sophie Hayes and Dr. Kenneth Warren told me my son died during birth. They gave me forged death certificates, conducted a fake cremation, and gave me an urn filled with ashes that weren't my child's. Complete silence as I detailed the scheme, the pattern of Warren selling babies to desperate would-be parents who couldn't adopt legally. This wasn't isolated, I explained. Dr. Warren, with Sophie Hayes' assistance, orchestrated the theft and sale of at least 17 infants over 12 years. Then Tyler stepped forward. My name is Tyler Hayes. 15 years ago, I was sold for $57,000. My adoptive mother loved me and raised me well. She didn't know the full truth until years later, and she was ashamed. Before she died, she made sure I would find my father. Questions erupted. I fielded them methodically. Yes, charges were being filed. Yes, civil suits would follow. Yes, there was evidence of additional crimes including falsified medical research and investor fraud. Halfway through, Jack slipped me a note. Sophie located, in custody. Attempted self-harm, stable, talking. After the media event, I met with the affected families privately. What happens now? Jennifer asked. Now the legal system takes over. Criminal charges, civil litigation. It will take time, but both Warren and Sophie will face significant prison sentences. And the money? We'll go after every penny. Whatever we recover gets distributed among the families. Later, Chen called. Sophie's confession is comprehensive. She's implicating Warren in everything. The baby trafficking, the data falsification, even Valentina Cruz's homicide. Says he hired someone to stage the break-in. Is she seeking a deal? Of course. But even with cooperation, she's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. Warren will never see freedom again. The arrest dominated news cycles for weeks. The scope expanded as investigators dug deeper, revealing connections to insurance fraud, pharmaceutical testing violations, multiple financial crimes. Warren's company collapsed as investors fled, and the FDA formally rejected their fertility treatment. The Swiss acquisition was withdrawn. 3 months later, Sophie's case went before a judge. She'd agreed to testify against Warren for a reduced sentence, but the evidence was too damning for leniency. The judge sentenced her to 18 years in federal prison. I attended with Tyler, who insisted on being present. As Sophie was led away in handcuffs, she looked back once. Tyler stared back, expression unreadable, until she was gone. Outside, reporters swarmed us. Mr. Hayes, how do you feel about the sentence? I stepped in front of Tyler protectively. Justice was served, that's all I'll say. Later at home, Tyler finally spoke. 18 years. She'll be older than you are now when she gets out. Yes. Do you think she's really sorry? I considered carefully. I think she's sorry she was caught. I think she's sorry about consequences. But true remorse? I don't know. I wrote her a letter. Haven't decided if I'll send it. That's your choice. Whatever you decide, I support you. Warren's trial was a spectacle. He maintained innocence despite overwhelming evidence, claiming Sophie orchestrated everything. The jury deliberated less than 4 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts: child trafficking, conspiracy, fraud, evidence tampering, and based on Sophie's testimony, solicitation of homicide in Valentina's death. The judge showed no mercy, sentencing Warren to consecutive terms totaling 130 years. He collapsed when the sentence was read. The civil cases settled quickly afterward. The court ordered all assets liquidated and distributed among affected families, over $40 million total, with additional punitive damages. Through it all, I focused on rebuilding life with Tyler. He thrived in school, showing aptitude in math and computer science. I expanded my firm to include a video game design division, giving Tyler space to explore his passion professionally. As the 1-year anniversary of Tyler walking into my office approached, we visited Rachel Carson's grave. Tyler placed white roses on her headstone. She would have liked you, Tyler told me. She always said my real father must be someone special. She was the special one. She gave you love when I couldn't. That evening, walking along the river, Tyler asked, "Are you still angry about everything?" I stopped, watching sunset reflect off glass towers I'd designed. Not angry, not anymore. I lost 15 years with you. Years I can never get back. But I refuse to lose a single day more to bitterness. Tyler nodded, relief visible. Rachel said something similar. That anger only hurts yourself in the end. Smart woman? I smiled. I'm glad she was your mother. I had two mothers, Tyler said. One who gave birth to me and threw me away. One who chose me and loved me. I know which one matters. 2 years after Tyler appeared, our lives had found rhythm. Legal battles were mostly settled. We'd formed the Restoration Foundation, helping dozens of families affected by similar scams nationwide. I'd redesigned my home to include dedicated space for Tyler, who now split time between school, the foundation, and developing his first commercial video game. On Tyler's 17th birthday, I presented him with legal name change documents to officially make him Tyler Hayes. You don't have to decide now. It's your choice. Tyler didn't hesitate, signing immediately. I've been a Hayes since the day I found you. This just makes it official. That week, I received a letter from Sophie, now 2 years into her sentence. Her handwriting had become cramped and irregular. Marcus, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but not a day passes when I don't regret what I did. The money, the lifestyle, the security I thought I wanted, none of it was worth the price. I destroyed our family for nothing. Kenneth manipulated me, but I made my choices. I let greed and fear guide me. I betrayed you and the child I should have protected. I've received Tyler's letter. His understanding humbles me. He's become extraordinary, despite my abandonment. That's credit to you and Rachel Carson. The doctors say I have stage 4 ovarian cancer. The prognosis isn't good. I'll likely die here, which seems fitting. My final request is that you tell Tyler I read his words, treasured them, and recognized the mercy he showed in writing it all. Sophie. I shared the letter with Tyler, who read it silently, then folded it carefully. Do you want to visit her? Tyler considered. No, I said what I needed in my letter. I don't hate her anymore, but I don't need to see her either. 6 months later, Sophie died in the prison hospital. I attended the small funeral alone, standing at the back of the nearly empty chapel. Only her elderly parents and a distant cousin came. No one from her life with Warren mourned her. When I returned home, Tyler was waiting. Why did you go? To make sure it was real, to see an end to that chapter. That month, I testified before a congressional committee on adoption reforms and medical ethics. My testimony, along with Tyler's written statement, helped shape legislation designed to prevent similar crimes. The Hayes Act increased penalties for illegal adoptions and strengthened oversight of fertility clinics and adoption agencies. The final civil judgment came 3 years after Tyler's appearance. The court-appointed administrator had liquidated all assets belonging to Warren and Sophie, yielding nearly $60 million divided among the 17 affected families. I used my share to establish a trust for Tyler and expand the foundation's work. The foundation now employed investigators specifically trained to trace children separated through illegal adoptions, reuniting dozens of families yearly. On a crisp autumn morning 4 years after our reunion, Tyler and I stood together on the rooftop of my newest building, a modern complex housing the Restoration Foundation headquarters, counseling services for affected families, and legal offices dedicated to adoption reform. What do you think? I asked, gesturing at the structure below. Tyler studied it with an architect's eye he'd inherited. It's perfect, strong but not imposing. A sanctuary, not a fortress. Pride swelled in my chest. At 19, Tyler had grown into a thoughtful young man with my analytical mind and compassion born from his unique journey. When I designed it, I explained, I kept thinking about what we learned, how structures, buildings, families, lives need solid foundations, but also flexibility, the ability to adapt and grow. Tyler smiled. Rachel used to say something similar about raising me, that her job wasn't to shape me into what she wanted, but to give me roots and let me find my own shape. Wise woman, I said, a familiar refrain between us whenever Rachel's memory surfaced. The foundation is helping reunite the Griffin twins next month, Tyler reported. They're 20 now, old enough to make their own choices. Are you ready to meet them? Tyler had become increasingly involved in counseling families navigating reunions. I am. I can tell them it gets better, that the anger fades eventually. Does it? I asked, genuinely curious about his inner landscape. Tyler considered. Not completely. There's still this space inside wondering why I wasn't enough, why she could give me away so easily. But it doesn't consume me anymore. That's all we can ask, to move forward without being dragged backward. As the sun climbed higher, we descended from the rooftop to the foundation offices where families like ours sought healing from similar wounds. Together, we'd transformed personal tragedy into purpose, pain into protection for others. The betrayal that nearly destroyed us had instead forged something unbreakable between us. In the lobby, a simple plaque bore the foundation's motto, words Tyler had chosen: "What was broken can be rebuilt, what was lost can be found." For me, master architect of buildings and now of justice, these words had become more than a motto. They were the blueprint of my reconstructed life, built on the foundation of a son who found his way home.